Muhammad, the Prime Minister of Malaysia and Chairman of KL Summit, and Yang Berbahagia Tun Dr. Siti Hasmah binti Muhammad Ali, Honorable Ministers, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I have been entrusted to read the Chair's statement. It is such a great honor to me, and I will now read the Chair's statement on Kuala Lumpur Summit 2019 as follows. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate, the Kuala Lumpur Summit 2019, with a theme entitled The Role of Development in Achieving National Sovereignty, was held in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, from 19th to 21st December 2019. Recalling the initiative of Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir bin Mohamad in presiding over the previous 4 Kuala Lumpur summits that aimed at being an international, multi-sectoral platform for dialogues and finding ways to mitigate the calamities befalling the Muslim Ummah, assuming a collective responsibility to advancing the Ummah through the 7 pillars of the summit, namely sustainable development, integrity and good governance, culture and identity, peace, justice and freedom, sovereignty, security and defense, trade and investment, and technology and governance, all of which are interdependent and mutually reinforcing. Emphasizing the importance of robust economic cooperation and harnessing the benefits of technology in essential areas to overcome the problems facing the Ummah today. Underlining that the summit serves as a strategic collaboration to complement efforts pursued by the existing coalitions of Islamic nations such as the Organization for Islamic Cooperation, OIC, and the D8 Organization for Economic Cooperation, D8, and thus inviting all Muslims, nations, and actors to join these efforts in future deliberations of the Kuala Lumpur Summit that will be rebranded as the Perdana Dialogue from the year 2020. Number 1, we commit to implementing the pragmatic solutions endorsed by the summit with a view to reviving the highly respected Islamic civilization, improving the current situation of the Ummah, and expanding the outreach of economic development as well as science, technology, and innovation for the benefit of future generations. Number 2, we affirm our commitment to working towards building an Ummah that lives a fulfilled life in freedom, with dignity and prosperity, equipped with the highest level of education and skills for better socio-economic opportunities, advocates peace and justice, and contributes to the international community. Number 3, we recognize the roles of each member of the Ummah in all its diversity to achieve the goal of reviving Islamic civilization for the greater good of the Ummah. Number 4, we resolve to leverage on solidarity and gather our strengths and resources to catalyze a renewed will and determination of the Ummah to uplift, modernize, and invent new approaches to tackling the problems faced by the Ummah based on the fundamental beliefs of Islam and the guidance provided in the Al-Quran Al-Karim. Number 5, we underscore the importance of identifying development needs of Muslim countries, creating opportunities in the areas of economic, trade, investment, industrial, research and development, Islamic finance products, joint technology advancements in essential areas, combating corruption, and instilling good governance, and addressing identity crisis and the threat of Islamophobia. Number 6, we pledge to maintain an inclusive, multi-sectoral approach that promotes the interchange of ideas, discourse, policy making, and action-driven recommendations. In this regard, we call on all actors in the Muslim world, Islamic scholars, international organizations, non-governmental organizations, business entities, foundations, philanthropic organizations, and individuals, development agencies, think tanks, universities, and the civil society at large to participate and contribute ideas during the summit and its future deliberations. And finally, 7, we pledge to achieve the objectives and targets of the Kuala Lumpur Summit, united by a common determination to revive the Islamic civilization for the present and future generations of the Ummah. Signed, Dr. Mahathir bin Mohamad, Chairman of KL Summit, dated 21st December 2019. Ampun tuanku, beribu-ribu ampun. Demikianlah saja ucapan Patik pada kali ini. Sekali lagi Patik merefat sembah, menjunjung setinggi-tinggi kasih di atas keberangkatan Duli Yang Maha Mulia Tuanku ke Majlis Penutup KL Summit 2019 ini. Sekian, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ampun tuanku.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Tun.
Your Royal Highness, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to enlighten us further on what we have accomplished over the course of the event, I would like to invite the Honorable Tun Dr. Mahathir bin Mohamad, Prime Minister of Malaysia and Chairman of KL Summit, to deliver the closing remarks. Please welcome the Honorable Tun Dr. Mahathir bin Mohamad.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Menghadap Duli Yang Maha Mulia Paduka Sri Sultan Perak Darul Ridwan Sultan Nazrin Muizzuddin Shah al-maghfurlah. Ampun tuanku. Terlebih dahulu Pati ingin mengambil kesempatan ini untuk merafak sembah, menjunjung kasih kepada Duli Yang Maha Mulia tuanku kerana berkenan mencemaduli berangkat ke Majlis Penutup Kuala Lumpur Summit 2019. Sesungguhnya keberangkatan Duli Yang Maha Mulia tuanku ke majlis ini amatlah dihargai dan sudah semestinya menambahkan lagi Sri Majlis ini. Seterusnya, Patik mohon limpah perkenan Duli Yang Maha Mulia tuanku bagi pihak Patik untuk menyampaikan ucapan kepada tetamu dalam bahasa Inggeris. Ampun tuanku. Ministers, foreign delegations and participants, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I would like to thank everyone who had been with us since the summit began on Thursday, together with those who were delayed. I truly hope that it has been a fruitful 3 days. We hope our hospitality has been satisfactory, and if there are anything lacking, we apologize. It is our hope that while you have stayed on to participate in this summit, you would have had the opportunity to explore Kuala Lumpur. If you haven't, I hope you would be able to do so today after we have concluded the summit. Ladies and gentlemen, before we address what had happened, what had transpired, discussed, debated and agreed upon during the course of these 3 days, I would like for us to just take a step back and reflect on why we wanted to hold this summit and what we hope to achieve. Admittedly, some had misunderstood our intentions, intentionally or otherwise. Some had felt slighted, while a few were suspicious. By now, I'm sure it is obvious that the negative opinions were misplaced and not justified. We are not here to replace any other Muslim platforms. Neither are we intending to create different categories or classes of Muslims, nations, nor to undermine others. It is a congregation of a few Muslim nations of which some of the leaders wanted to get together and discuss some areas that are possible for us to establish collaborations that will first benefit the nations involved and then taken on to a bigger platform and collaboration to benefit the Muslim world as a whole. The idea was to come together, assess our strengths and weaknesses as well as our assets. Then we will use the strengths of one another to overcome the weaknesses we have. Simply put, if one of us have an expertise in a particular area, we offer it to another or all the other participating countries and establish a realistic collaboration. Further to that, we had from the start identified 7 pillars that we wish to focus on: development and sovereignty, integrity and good governance, culture and identity, justice and freedom, peace, security and defense, trade and established investment, and technology and internet governance. During the course of our discussions with leaders from Turkey, Iran, and Qatar, we shared the sentiments that for these efforts to work, we need to keep the initial group small, so that we can pursue the objectives immediately without having to be distracted by too many opinions and conditions. Ladies and gentlemen, the other leaders and myself have elaborated at length on how pitiful the state of affairs of the Muslim world is today. It was pointed out that we are a 1.83 billion strong, which means that Muslims form almost a quarter of the total human population. And yet, we lack proportionate representation in all fields on the global platform. There is also concern that Muslims in non-Muslim countries are forced to undergo assimilation. We support integration, but assimilation to the extent of shedding our religion is unacceptable. It was pointed out that if Muslim countries are independent and capable of standing on their own feet, we will not be subjected to such treatments. Nevertheless, leaders of all four countries were especially heartened by the brotherly and friendly relations that have strengthened despite the complexities of the region. These, to us, are the very essence that will ensure the foundation that we want to build will be successful. It is important for me to point out that Iran in particular, despite the years of sanctions, had been able to continue to progress and develop, and it proudly stands as a nation with the fourth greatest number of engineers in the world. Qatar, too, have been subjected to embargo, and like Iran, it has managed to rise above it and progress impressively. However, such sanctions and embargoes are not going to be exclusively for Iran and Qatar. With the world witnessing nations making unilateral decisions to impose such punitive measures, Malaysia and other nations must always bear in mind that it can be imposed on any of us. That is the more reason for us to be self-reliant and work towards that which with other Muslim nations to ensure that if and when such measures are imposed upon us, we are capable of forcing it. Ladies and gentlemen, our discussions also touched on the subject of currency and the way we trade with each other. I have suggested that we revisit the idea of trading using the gold dinar and barter trade among us. We are seriously looking into this, and we hope that we will be able to find a mechanism to put it into effect. Our focus is mainly on the economy, science and technology, as well as the defense industry. But the most important aspect of all the focus is the need to be able to produce and create new indigenous technologies. For as long as we are dependent on the technology created by the enemies of Islam, they will forever be able to circumvent, dictate, and control our efforts to improve our technologies and defense system in particular. Ladies and gentlemen, I am indeed proud and extremely pleased to announce that this summit had witnessed 18 successful exchanges of instruments in various fields, including advance in high technology, media collaboration, center of excellence, food security, and youth leadership and exchange programs. There are several more in the pipeline which are being worked out, resulting from discussions during the summit. These are tangible outcomes from the summit, as how we had envisaged when we embarked on this program. While it may not allay some of the suspicions and oppositions raised, we would like to again reiterate that this summit is focused on its objective of finding solutions and programs that we believe can assist and eventually save the Ummah from their current plight. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to an end of the summit, but we know if we strengthen our resolve, this is the new beginning, one that pursues what had been enjoined in the Quran, that Allah will not change the condition of a people as long as they do not change their state themselves. That is what we hope to do. We want to save ourselves and the Muslim Ummah, and we will persevere in this effort. We hope that from this point onwards, our other Muslim brethren will see for themselves that what we intend to do is to unite the Ummah on strategic and advanced technologies. Acquiring this knowledge is our only hope to stop the Ummah from continuously being bullied and mistreated by our enemies. For that, we reaffirm our creed that all Muslims are brothers, and that this small step we have taken will be the beginning of a lengthy and fruitful journey with the rest of the Ummah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us and guide us in our endeavor. I thank you.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Tun Dr. Mahathir bin Mohamad.
Your Royal Highness, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the program today will continue with a royal address. I'd like to invite the Honorable Tan Sri Samsudin Osman, Secretary General of KL Summit, to humbly invite His Royal Highness Sultan Nazrin Muizzuddin Shah, Sultan of Perak Darul Rizwan, to deliver the royal address.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. The Honourable Prime Minister, Yang Amat Bahagia Tun Dr. Siti Hasmah, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to be given the opportunity to address you all today, the final day of the KL Summit 2019. I listened with great interest to the Chair's statement that was just read, and I would like to congratulate you, Prime Minister, Chair of KL Summit, for the impressive outcome of the conference. I understand that this summit was first convened back in 2014 as a forum in which to raise and seek solutions to the major challenges facing the Muslim world. The hope was that these conversations might ultimately spur the revival of Islamic civilization. That remains a goal of the summit to this day. Over the past few days, leaders from across the Muslim world have engaged in important discussions, sharing their uniquely insightful and illuminating perspectives on a multitude of subjects, including politics, education, prosperity, and technology, in relation to that most vital of topics, development. Through these, as well as the other more informal conversations enabled by this gathering, this year's summit will undoubtedly have contributed to the building of bridges and the furthering of progress throughout the global Islamic community. In the many countries represented at this summit, as well as the world leaders and scholars gathered here, we see both the great variety and incredible unity of the Ummah. We are all of us united by our Islamic faith. At the same time, we bring diverse experiences and unique ideas to the table. We come from countries which differ in size, demography, and political structure. This diversity can only serve to enrich the conversation, offer new perspectives on challenges common to the Islamic world, and improve our understanding of the national and regional difficulties so that we might better support one another. Remember the famous dictum taken seriously by the early Muslims. Rahmatul Ummah fi ikhtilafil a'imah. The mercy of this Ummah lies precisely in the diversity of their leaders. This KL summit has centered around the 7 pillars as mentioned earlier. These have all been identified as areas essential to the furthering of development and progress in the Islamic world. Thus, a failure to translate conversation into policies and action, a failure to capitalize on the dialogues and relationships begun at this summit will result quite simply in nothing more than a talk fest. It is my sincerest hope that when this summit next meets, it will be to focus on the progress that has been made in implementation and the challenges that remain. So what are some of the challenges? It is my belief that the gravest challenges facing the world can be summarized under the 3 Ps. That is prosperity, the planet, and its people. The issue of prosperity, how to increase wealth and eradicate poverty, has already been much discussed at this year's summit, thanks to its focus on development. The planet, a subject very close to my heart, must be increasingly prioritized in development initiatives because unsustainable development, which damages the climate and the natural world, is not really development at all. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals provide an excellent roadmap in this area, and in the past, I have discussed the incredible ethical overlap of the SDGs with the teachings of the Holy Quran at some length. However, it is the final P, that of people, that I would like to focus on this morning. Over the past few days, the end goal of our conversations has been how development can enhance the sovereignty of a nation. However, as I reflected on the subject of national sovereignty in the run-up to this summit, I found myself repeatedly coming back to the question, but what about the nationless? What about those members of the Ummah, our Muslim brothers and sisters, who have been forced to abandon their homes and flee their homelands because of hardship, conflict, and persecution? We are facing a crisis of mounting severity. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees reports more displaced persons in the world today than at any time since the end of the Second World War. There are around 70 million displaced persons worldwide. Of these, almost 26 million are refugees. Nearly 10 million of the refugees, well over a third, come from Muslim majority countries. They have been rendered nationless by the failure of states to care for them and by the bombs and bullets of war. Millions, including children, women, and the elderly, face shocking abuse, suffering, and deprivation. How might we build and act on our conversations about national sovereignty and development in order to help them? Finding an enduring resolution to the refugee problem will require addressing the root causes why populations become displaced or refugees. This summit has in fact just done some of that. The comprehensive and sustainable development that we focused on will help eradicate poverty and want and improve livelihoods. It will put in place healthy political systems and administrative structures that produce good governance and protect the legitimate rights of all citizens, irrespective of ethnicity, religion, or sect. It will create just laws and effective agencies to maintain peace and ensure security. Comprehensive development will also yield the necessary resources to provide for effective defense against external aggression and subversion. But for the families and individuals who have fled their country out of desperation and in fear of their lives, whether from Palestine, Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, or from other countries decimated by war and persecution, they cannot wait for enduring solutions that may take years or even may never come. Their struggle, quite simply, is just to survive. So what can we do for the refugees and the displaced who are most in need of our help? How can we use the progress that we continue to make in the areas of development and national sovereignty to help the desperately needy beyond our own borders, to give homes to the homeless and voices to the voiceless? Because at present, in my opinion, the harsh reality is that Islamic nations simply are not doing enough. That is not to say that no Muslim countries are doing their share to alleviate the crisis. Indeed, Turkey is currently hosting over 4 million refugees, more than any other country. The Lebanon is hosting 1.5 million refugees. With a population of 5.9 million, that is the highest number of refugees per capita. Jordan, Pakistan, and Iran too are countries hosting vast numbers of refugees. But the Muslim world could do much more, particularly as it develops and grows in wealth and power. Many Muslim majority nations are more affluent now. Many more of us could therefore be working much harder to raise awareness, to contribute to the global dialogue, and to provide the financial and material support that humanitarian aid efforts so desperately need. We have a vital responsibility to our nationless Muslim brothers and sisters, and we must start to do better at reaching out and offering them homes and hope. Just as the Ansar hosted the Muhajirun during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is an issue which I've spoken in the past, particularly in relation to the Syrian crisis. What we have witnessed in that crisis is Syrians desperate to seek refuge, not in nearby Muslim nations, but instead in Europe. I vividly remember one Syrian refugee back in 2015 eloquently commenting, and I quote, "We will tell our children that Syrian migrants fled their country to come to Europe when Mecca and Muslim lands were closer to them," unquote. I was also deeply moved by the words of another, comparing the German Chancellor Angela Merkel to the Abyssinian Christian King Negus, who famously sheltered Muslim refugees during their first hijrah in the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I hope that the world will never forget the appalling, heartbreaking image of Alan Kurdi, the 3-year-old Syrian boy who drowned as he and his family attempted to cross the Mediterranean Sea, refugees fleeing to Europe. They sometimes say that a picture speaks 1,000 words, but I think that this picture left us with no words at all. This was a heart-rending tragedy. There are surely many, many more, neither seen by the world nor heard by it. For Muslims everywhere, the enduring message should be this: that Muslims, rendered nationless, should not have to hazard the perilous journey to faraway places in order to feel safe, comfortable, and secure. There should be safe refuge for them closer to home. The essential question then is this: how do we give them hope? Well, one of the reasons that Islamic refugees seek shelter in Europe is that they believe Europe will afford them greater opportunities, better access to education, routes to financial stability, and crucially, the freedom, the dignity, and the human rights that they were stripped of in their home countries. In this sense, our focus on development at this summit has huge potential to improve the lives of Muslim refugees the world over. As Muslim nations become more prosperous, more stable, and more developed in terms of technology, education, and work opportunities, they become better placed to offer hopeful, safe, and productive lives to refugees seeking fresh hope and new homes. They also become more able to fund humanitarian efforts and to command greater power and sway on the world stage in order to ensure that nations pay attention to the crisis as well. For these possibilities to be realized, we have to care about what lies beyond our own borders, even as we pursue national development agendas. Tackling the hardships faced by nationless Muslims the world over has to become a priority. We must be more involved in the conversation. That this is a compelling issue was made all too clear by the first ever Global Refugee Forum that was held in Geneva earlier this week. There is increasing awareness around the world that now, more than ever, is the time to come together, to earnestly engage, and crucially, to take the necessary measures to resolve the biggest humanitarian crisis in living memory. As Muslims, it is my sincerest hope that we can lead the way in helping our nationless brothers and sisters rather than lag behind. Summits such as this, which build bridges between Islamic nations across the world, could act as a springboard for Muslim countries to act more earnestly to tackle the problem. Indeed, I believe that a great deal of positive change could be achieved if the plight of the nationless is foregrounded at this summit going forward. In this spirit of global togetherness and shared responsibilities, I applaud to announce, and I'm pleased to announce, as reflected in the declaration agreed to by the nations gathered here, that at its next gathering, this KL Summit will henceforth be known as the Perdana Dialogue. This, I believe, is a hugely significant name change, reaffirming this summit's commitment to the power of collaboration and conversation, while at the same time emphasizing the responsibility that befalls us all to ensure that the outcomes of these discussions are implemented without delay. In that vein, I would also take this moment to acknowledge the importance of the Chair's statement at the KL Summit. This declaration records and affirms the many laudable aims and achievements of the summit, concluding with, and I quote, a pledge to achieve the objectives and targets of the Kuala Lumpur Summit, united by a common determination to revive the Islamic civilization for the present and future generation of the Ummah. Let us take this mutual commitment to transform words into action most seriously. Let us not neglect this pledge to continue the work we have started here today. In ending, I would like to recall the words of the renowned 20th century physicist Albert Einstein, himself a refugee forced to flee Nazi Germany in the 1930s. Einstein once said, and I quote, "The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything," unquote. Honorable Prime Minister, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I hereby declare the KL Summit 2019 closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Royal Highness. Now, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, Allah mentioned in Surah At-Tawbah, verse 71, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والمؤمنون والمؤمنات بعضهم أولياء بعض يأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر ويقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة ويطيعون الله ورسوله أولئك سيرحمهم الله إن الله عزيز الحكيم, which means the believing men and believing women are allies of one another. They enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong and establish prayer, give charity and obey Allah and His Messenger. Allah will have mercy upon them, for Allah is Almighty and wise. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I believe KL Summit is a platform where we all as believers, men and women, are enjoined to do what is right and forbid what is wrong. May Allah have mercy upon us and give us strength to go back home to our respective countries and materialize all that we have discussed.
And with that, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have concluded the closing ceremony of Kuala Lumpur Summit 2019. Thank you, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to take this opportunity to extend our heartfelt appreciation to all participants for being a part of KL Summit 2019.
Ampun Tuanku, disembah maklum bahawa demikianlah sempurnanya Majlis Penutup Sidang Kemuncak Kuala Lumpur 2019. Patik sekali lagi bagi pihak majlis dengan penuh hormat dan takzimnya merafak sembah menjunjung setinggi-tinggi kasih atas limpah perkenan Duli Yang Maha Mulia Tuanku sudi bercemar duli berangkat ke majlis pada pagi ini dan patik mohon limpah perkenan Duli Yang Maha Mulia Tuanku untuk patik mengakhirinya. Ampun Tuanku, beribu-ribu ampun, sembah patik mohon diampun.
Mengumumkan keberangkatan Duli Yang Maha Mulia Paduka Sri Sultan Perak Darul Rizwan diiringi Yang Amat Berhormat Tun Dr. Mahathir bin Mohamad, Perdana Menteri Malaysia, merangkap pengerusi sidang kemuncak Kuala Lumpur 2019. Yang amat berbahagia Tun Dr. Siti Hasmah binti Haji Muhammad Ali serta Div-Div kenamaan. Hadirin dipohon berdiri. Please rise.